Ai Oto was a sad and lonely girl who lost her only friend, making her even lonelier. She, alongside 3 other girls, go through the egg world, completing missions to bring back the special one that they lost in this story filled with egg puns. One night, Ai was walking on the street. She noticed a firefly that wasn't moving in the middle of the road. So she picked it up and took it to a garden. She dug a hole in the soil and gently put the firefly inside, covering it with dirt. Then, she joined her hands and closed her eyes to pray. Suddenly, the firefly came back to life and started flying in front of her, and she heard a voice talking to her. Ai didn't seem too egg-sighted and just stared at the firefly. It asked her why she was in a place like this. She replied that she was just walking, but the firefly questioned why she was out so late. Suddenly she realized and muttered that it must be a dream. The firefly responded, suggesting she might not like dreams and preferred reality. The firefly then guided her through a large dirt field, mentioning that the first time was free, but she would need to bring money next time. She asked how much it would cost, but the firefly ignored her. It reassured her, saying she would enjoy it because it was a very special capsule machine. Curious about what the firefly meant by special, I asked for more details. The firefly explained that the capsule machine held the thing she desired most. I insisted she didn't really want anything, but the firefly continued leading her down an egg escalator. As they descended, 2 voices laughed at her, and the lights in the tunnel went out one by one. The firefly challenged her denial, saying she did want something, hinting it might be a friend. Suddenly, I fell into darkness as the voice whispered, "Like a friend." The next morning, I woke up to find an egg in her bed, realizing it wasn't just a dream. She wondered what to do with it. She tried biting the egg, but it didn't crack. Worried about keeping it warm, she ran a bath but became concerned that she might just end up boiling it as the egghead that she is. Later that day, Ai's teacher, Shuichiro Sawaki, visited to deliver some schoolwork. Feeling overwhelmed, Ai retreated to her room and locked herself in. Sawaki talked to her mother, indicating they had a somewhat familiar relationship. That night, Ai lay in bed, gazing at the egg. She decided that the next day, she would go back to the place where the firefly had led her. Ai decided not to wait and sneaked out of her house in the middle of the night. When she opened the front door, she found herself at her school. In the hallway, she saw 2 girls writing the word "die" on someone's locker. A woman's voice came over the PA system, telling students to do nothing and just watch if they saw someone being bullied. Feeling scared and overwhelmed, I ran into the washroom. There, the toilet paper formed a mouth and yelled at her to break the egg. Frustrated, she threw the egg to the ground. It grew, and a girl named Kurumi Saijo emerged from it. After waking up, Kurumi complained about the place where she hatched and told Ai to leave the bathroom if she was done. Ai made her exit without arguing, though she noted to herself that Kurumi was being rude. After a few minutes, the school bell rang, and Kurumi rushed out of the bathroom. Suddenly, a girl wielding axes and accompanied by little creatures called Sino Evils appeared, attacking them. Kurumi got hurt in her right arm by an axe, and they both ran away, with Ai also getting injured during the chase. They found refuge through a closet that led to another room, where they took a break. Ai refused to believe the whole situation was real, thinking of it as a nightmare. However, Kurumi pointed out that while it might be a dream for Ai, it was real for her, showing that her wounds didn't heal like Ai's did. Kurumi explained that the Sino Evils and the girl only pursued her and ignored Ai. They talked and shared a bit about themselves. The Sino Evils managed to find them again. Understanding the situation, Ai decided not to run with Kurumi and let her escape alone. Ai made her way to the roof and found a statue of her late best friend, Koito Nagase. Memories flooded back of when they first became friends, and Ai broke down in tears beneath the statue. Suddenly, she spotted Kurumi being chased by the Sino Evils and the student, prompting her to rush to help. After gathering her courage and taking a leap off the roof, Ai's pen transformed into a mace, which she used to defeat the student. With the student defeated, Kurumi vanished, leading Ai to believe she was getting closer to bringing Koito back to life. In the morning, I sat down to eat breakfast, but suddenly her nose started bleeding. She noticed the wound she got during the chase hadn't healed, and she collapsed to the floor. Rushed to the hospital, I eventually returned to the place where she found the egg with the insect and met Akka, Eggman's distant cousin. She also saw Nehru Aonuma and took note of her appearance. One sunny morning, Nehru strolled down the street, while I followed behind, eager to make friends. I tried to start a conversation by complimenting Nehru's clothes and asking where she bought them, but Nehru ignored her, focusing on her own thoughts with her Batman aura. Undeterred, I shifted gears and commented on the lovely weather, then asked Nehru how she managed to carry so many eggs without breaking them, marveling at her skill. Sitting by the water, the girl put a question to Ai, asking her what she was fighting for. Ai responded promptly, saying she was fighting for Quito. Curious, the girl asked who Quito was, and Ai explained that Quito was her close friend, or only friend, rather as she was a lonely girl. However, the girl's response carried a passive-aggressive tone, suggesting that Ai might be fighting more for herself than for Quito. Perplexed, Ai sought clarification, and the girl shared her perspective, expressing her dislike for her current self. Despite being scared, she was determined to change the aspects of herself she despised. Intrigued by the girl's response, I wondered if they shared similar feelings. But the girl denied it, asserting that she loved herself, unlike I, who knew she was sad, lonely, and helpless beyond repair. I probed further, asking why the girl fought, to which she revealed it was for her sister. She confided in I, admitting that she felt responsible for her sister's death and carried the burden of guilt. Later that day, when I returned home, she was greeted by her mom and her teacher, Shuichiro Sawaki. Despite their warm welcome, I seemed downcast, and her dad asked about her injuries. They all sat in the living room, concerned, and inquired about what happened, but I remained silent, burying her head between her legs. She apologized to her mom, and when Sawaki asked if she hated him, she denied it, which seemed to please him. Later, Ai had dinner with her mom while watching TV. As she lay in bed, scrolling through her phone, she recalled how she exchanged contact details with Nehru, the girl she met earlier. Nehru had made plans for them to buy eggs together, suggesting that Ai would buy on even days while she bought on odd days. The next day, as the bus came to pick her up, Nehru wished her luck and reminded her not to misuse the contact info. Later, Ai hesitated, staring at her phone in her room, pondering whether she should call Nehru or not. Later that night, Ai was in a classroom in the egg world, playing with an egg. She made noise in the hallway, hoping someone would hear, but no one responded because they wanted to keep the plot of her being sad and lonely. She returned to the classroom, feeling safe as long as the egg didn't break and nobody attacked her. Suddenly, the egg teetered on the edge of the table, but thankfully, it didn't fall. Then, with the bad luck and clumsiness of Goku on a field day, the curtain she was holding onto gave way, and she fell, causing the egg to drop and crack open. I rushed out of the classroom and shut the door behind her, but a girl wearing glasses emerged. I grabbed her hand, and they ran, with I promising to explain later. They found themselves surrounded by Sino evils on both sides of the hallway, leaving them no choice but to fight. I swiftly drew her weapon and defeated one of the Sino evils, while the other girl, still confused, asked where they were. As the girl tried to approach them, I, preoccupied with warning her to stay back, momentarily let her guard down. In that moment of distraction, one of the Sino evils struck I, severely injuring her arm in the process. The girl panicked and dashed through the Sino evils, with I hot on her heels, reassuring her that she would keep her safe. They raced down the stairs, the girl panting and feeling lost. Suddenly, a Sino evil monster appeared, ready to strike, but I intervened just in time, knocking it away. Grateful, the girl thanked I for saving her, but their relief was short-lived as they found themselves surrounded by Sino evils once more. Spotting a door with fewer Sino evils nearby, I quickly decided their next move and led the girl towards it, hoping for a safer path. The two managed to make it to the roof just in time, quickly closing the door behind them. I asked the girl for her name, and she introduced herself as Minami Suzuhara. I complimented Minami's figure, but Minami revealed she felt pressured to maintain it. They continued chatting until Aka interrupted, reminding them they must defeat the Wonder Killer to survive, and running away wouldn't solve anything. As I was momentarily distracted, the roof door was suddenly destroyed. A Wonder Killer named Komon Kyoshi transformed into a monstrous form, capturing Minami and knocking I unconscious. In a moment of recollection, which is just a fancy way of saying flashback, I remembered a rainy day when she and Koito Nagase discussed why Koito was being bullied, with I blaming herself for it. Back in the present, I regained consciousness and rushed to find Minami. She discovered Minami being tormented by Komon Kyoshi in the gym. AI tried to attack the Wonder Killer, but was thrown across the room. In desperation, Minami called out to her gymnastics coach to stop, but the coach pushed her away. Determined, AI stood up and grabbed Minami's ribbon, which transformed into a weapon she used to fight back. Despite being blinded by Komon Kyoshi's purple fluid, AI managed to fight and dodge attacks, guided by Minami's instructions on where to move. Eventually, I landed on the gym's upper balcony and wrapped the ribbon around Komon Kyoshi's arm, allowing her to get close and defeat the monster. Grateful, Minami thanked I for saving her life, expressing a wish that they had met sooner. With that, Minami disappeared. A Wonder Killer monster menacingly declared its love for young women and its desire to devour them. A blonde-haired girl, unimpressed, jokingly suggested it should visit a lady who works to get down hot with the plot. With a swift motion, she sliced the monster in half, effectively killing it. The egg girl expressed gratitude to the blonde girl for protecting her before vanishing, much to the blonde girl's surprise. Approaching the lifeless body statue of the girl she wanted to save, the blonde girl touched its palm, expressing her displeasure on its sweaty condition. She expressed pity for the body, contrasting herself by remarking how she would look beautiful in a garden setting like the one they were in, unlike the condemned body, which she called a fatty. Choji wouldn't be too happy with that. Ai was buying Wonder Eggs from Aka and Ura Aka. As she was about to leave, a blonde girl collapsed behind her, clearly in pain. I rushed to her side and asked where it hurt. The girl said it was her ribs and she thought they were broken. I suggested seeing a doctor, but the blonde girl dismissed the idea, saying she didn't know she could get hurt there. However, when her cries for help were ignored by Aka and Ura Aka, she quickly sprung back up as if nothing happened. Introducing herself as Rika Kawaii, she joked that she was named after Kawaii because she was so adorable. I asked Rika if she was also trying to save a friend, but Rika ignored the question and instead asked I about her eye color, wondering if she was wearing colored contact lenses. I was puzzled at first, but Rika continued, suggesting that mixing colors could be trendy and might even go viral. Or it might just make everyone look like they stole Sharingans. AI interrupted her, still trying to find her words. Rika then casually asked I for some money to buy eggs as round as Saitama's head, claiming she forgot her wallet. I quickly agreed and lent her the money. Rika joked that I should visit her again sometime, but then quickly added that she was just kidding. Later that day, I texted Nehru about meeting up the next day and shared her encounter with Rika, describing her as a funny girl. The next day, as I was preparing to leave and packing fruits from the fridge, she was surprised to find Rika waiting outside her door. I asked if she had come to repay her from yesterday, but Rika once again claimed she forgot her wallet. Rika accompanied I to meet Nehru in the hospital. I gave an egg to Nehru, but Rika's straightforwardness immediately rubbed Nehru the wrong way. As the three girls chatted, Rika casually mentioned that she used to be part of an idol group called All Out Kiss, which disbanded because the other members were too ugly. When I returned home, she noticed Shuichiro Sawaki was there. Wanting to avoid him, she tried to slip into her room unnoticed. However, her mother spotted her and Rika, who once again followed her home. Seeing that I had brought home a friend, Shuichiro decided to leave. In Ai's room, Rika's probing questions started to annoy her. Rika suggested that I might be skipping school to make her teacher worry about her, but I quickly corrected her, explaining that she was staying home because her friend Koito had passed away. Rika then revealed that she was trying to save a girl named Chiemi, who was a fan of hers when she was an idol. She described Chiemi as a wallet who would buy her anything. When Rika admitted to choosing her friends based on their looks, Ai became increasingly irritated by what she perceived as Rika's shallow personality. Rika decided to stay over at Ai's house. Meanwhile, Nehru warned Ai via text to be careful around Rika, mentioning how she always hinted at plot business with the doctor. While Rika was in the bath, Ai asked if she had called her parents, but Rika responded indifferently, saying she didn't care. As Rika nursed cut scars on her forearm, she promised Ai that she would stop cutting herself. This reminded Ai of a time when she stumbled upon Koito crying in Shuichiro's arms. Overwhelmed, Ai quickly fled from the scene, unable to confront the situation. Ai and Rika drifted off to sleep and found themselves sharing the same egg world. Aka explained that because they fell asleep near each other at the same time, they entered the same world, with the one having stronger feelings being the world that got chosen. As they opened their eggs simultaneously, two girls named Miko and Meiko emerged. They revealed that they took their own lives after their favorite singer, Yu, did the same. Soon, Sino evils attacked, and Ai and Rika fought back. However, their lack of coordination caused them to accidentally almost hit each other multiple times. Rika got injured by one of the Sino evils, so they fled to a nearby lighthouse for safety. After they found a moment to rest, Ai asked Rika to share more about Chiemi. Reluctantly, Rika opened up, revealing that Chiemi used to line up multiple times at handshake events to see her when she was an idol. Chiemi's lavish gifts led Rika to believe she had a wealthy benefactor until she caught her shoplifting in town. Rika was repulsed by Chiemi's behavior and confronted her, calling her a fatty and demanding she never return. Tragically, Chiemi passed away shortly afterward, apparently due to self-starvation caused by Rika's hurtful insults. The weight of this incident burdened Rika with overwhelming guilt ever since. As the Sino evils broke through the door, Miko and Meiko dashed up the stairs of the lighthouse with Ai and Rika in pursuit. Some of the Sino evils managed to slip past Rika and Ai, directly chasing Miko and Meiko. Questioning why Koito would take her own life without confiding in her, Ai was filled with determination. With newfound resolve, she raced up the stairs, determined to eliminate the Sino evils before they could harm the two egg girls. In this moment, Ai gained a deeper understanding of Rika and vowed to fight alongside her against the monsters. As they reached the top, Ai and Rika discovered that Miko and Meiko were being held captive by Madame Sachiko, their wonder killer. Madame Sachiko, a woman previously arrested for stalking Yu, had ensnared the two egg girls with her tentacles. Without hesitation, Rika leapt at Madame Sachiko and severed the tentacle holding Miko and Meiko with her blade, while Ai swiftly climbed up the tentacle and struck Madame Sachiko with her mace. Ai and Rika managed to catch Miko and Mako in midair, ensuring their safety. Feeling emboldened, Ai and Rika hurled insults at Madame Sachiko and vowed to protect the girls from the monsters. Enraged, Madame Sachiko released a cloud of smoke that engulfed Rika directly, turning her to stone in an instant. Momo Sawaki and Miwa were on a train in the egg world. Miwa shared with Momo how she was forced to the plot in an uncultured way every day by the same person. One day, she finally got the courage to ask for help. People around them held the person down, but it turned out the person was an important executive at Miwa's dad's company. Because of this, Miwa's dad lost his job quickly. Miwa's mom blamed her for her dad losing his job, saying she should have just swallowed it with a grain of salt. Literally. She even said Miwa was lucky to have been chosen. Ai Oto, Miko, and Meiko raced through a foggy forest, trying to escape from Madame Sachiko. With Rika Kawai unable to fight, Ai struggled to defend herself. She was knocked to the ground by a tentacle, but Miko and Meiko came to her aid. They gave Ai penlights that transformed into glowing blades, helping her see through the mist and fight back against Madame Sachiko. Just when they thought they had the upper hand, Madame Sachiko surprised them with a volley of arrows, knocking them all down. As Madame Sachiko moved in to attack Ai, Miko and Mako stepped forward and started playing a song by Yu on their phone. They argued that a true fan wouldn't harm another while their idol was watching. Surprisingly, Madame Sachiko's tentacle retreated, and the trio followed it into a clearing. Ai charged at Madame Sachiko, using the penlights to slice her in half. Thinking the fight was finished, Ai relaxed her guard, but Madame Sachiko sprung back to life and grabbed her. Just as things looked dire, Rika returned to the battlefield and rescued Ai with her blades. Rika reminded Ai that they were immortal in this world, so their injuries would heal over time. Working together, Rika and Ai continued the fight. Rika slashed through most of Madame Sachiko's tentacles with her blades, creating an opening for Ai to deliver the final blow, smashing Madame Sachiko into the ground. Miko and Mako expressed their gratitude to Ai before vanishing, while Rika went to observe Chiemi's statue. She noticed it was getting warmer, indicating a significant change. At the same time, Momo was locked in a fierce battle against Miwa's wonder killer, Kaisha no Senmu. Throughout the fight, the director continuously mocked Miwa. He launched a powerful red barrier at Momo, who struggled to defend herself. Despite her efforts, she found herself cornered. Unexpectedly, Miwa emerged from her hiding spot in the train car and began to distract the director by undressing and provocatively inviting him to touch her. This diversion gave Momo the chance she needed to break through the barrier and launch a decisive attack. With swift precision, she stabbed the director in the mouth with her weapon, causing him to spew blood onto her face before collapsing lifelessly. As they stood on the train platform, Miwa revealed that she had developed feelings for Momo, despite their brief acquaintance. She asked to stay in Momo's embrace before fading away. The next day, Nehru engaged in rehab exercises. Despite the doctor's caution that her muscles needed more time to heal, Nehru demonstrated her strength by leaping high into the air and landing gracefully on her feet. Convinced of her recovery, she prepared to leave the hospital with Ai. As they descended in the elevator, Nehru explained to Ai how fighting in the egg world took a toll on their bodies, but also helped them heal faster. Once outside, Nehru surprised Ai by ushering her into a limo and taking her to a large building. There, they met Misaki Tanabe, and Nehru revealed that she was the director of the company operating in the building, leaving Ai stunned by the revelation. Meanwhile, Momo received advice from Aka and Ura Aka, who informed her that there were other girls buying eggs and suggested she try to make friends. Momo ventured back into the egg world to protect a girl named Mizuki. However, Mizuki's wonder killer trapped Momo against the side of a train car, mocking her by claiming the car was exclusively for women. Undeterred, Momo retorted, asserting her right to be there as a girl too. With determination, she broke free from the wonder killer's grasp and defeated it with a decisive strike from her weapon. Grateful for Momo's help, Mizuki expressed her admiration and confessed her love for her. She leaned in for a kiss, but before she could, she vanished into thin air. Feeling a mix of emotions, Momo sought solace at the statue of her late friend, Haruka, where she vented her feelings. Rika bumped into Nehru while heading to buy eggs, and they sat together on a bench. Rika, in her usual straightforward style, pretended she'd forgotten her wallet, but Nehru wasn't fooled. Momo joined them and started to introduce herself, but paused when Rika and Nehru mistook her for a boy. Nehru wondered why a boy would be there, prompting Aka and Ura Aka to advise her not to focus too much on gender. After Momo left, she broke down in tears while staring at her reflection in a window. I noticed Momo's distress and approached her, asking if she was all right. Momo wiped away her tears and questioned how she appeared to Ai. With a comforting smile, Ai described her as a crying girl who still looked like a supermodel. Momo appreciated the compliment and admired Ai's hoodie, sparking a quick friendship between them. As Nehru and Rika joined them, the four girls started chatting and laughing together. Momo introduced herself properly, and Ai recognized her last name, leading to a warm exchange of introductions and camaraderie among the group. In the egg world, Nehru Aonuma shielded a girl named Ayaka from her wonder killer Yodare on a bridge. Nehru blasted some cars around Yodare with her weapon, creating smoke that helped them climb the bridge's frame. Despite Yodare's taunts, Nehru transformed her weapon into a sniper rifle and shot off his left arm. He fell to the ground, and Nehru fired another shot that destroyed his lower body. Climbing to the top of the bridge, Nehru leapt down and fatally stabbed Yodar in the chest, ending his threat. Ayaka expressed gratitude to Nehru for protecting her, and as fireworks lit up the sky, Ayaka disappeared. The following day, Nehru, Momo Sawaki, and Rika Kawai paid a visit to Ioto's house. Taiyoto welcomed them warmly, delighted to see her daughter bringing home friends. She recognized Momo as Shuichiro Sawaki's niece because they shared the same last name. The four girls headed to Ai's room to hang out. In Ai's room, Rika came up with a theory suggesting that Ai's late friend, Koito Nagase, might have been secretly dating her teacher, Shuichiro. Momo disagreed, describing Shuichiro as a kind-hearted person who rescues many cats. However, Rika continued to speculate, suggesting the possibility that Koito might have been pregnant. Momo interrupted, urging everyone to stop discussing it further. Rika persisted, implying that Shuichiro might be hiding something and suspecting that Ai knew about it. Feeling uncomfortable, Ai decided to return a tray to the kitchen. On her way, she overheard her mother talking to Shuichiro. Worried about being seen, Ai quickly left the area. In a flashback, as there are no other fancy ways of saying flashback, Shuichiro was seen sketching a picture of Ai, praising her and complimenting her charming eyes. He promised to turn the sketch into a painting and encouraged Ai to be confident once it was finished. Later, while walking home with Koito, she mentioned that Shuichiro intended to enter the painting into an art contest as he aspired to become an artist. Koito advised Ai to decline the painting if she lacked confidence, considering Shuichiro's future was at stake. Ai later witnessed Koito being sketched by Shuichiro as well, indicating his dedication to his artistic pursuits. As the girls engaged in conversation while playing a game, Rika complimented Ai's mother, contrasting her own less favorably. Ai acknowledged the compliment, praising her mother's perfectionism, yet speculated it might have contributed to her father's departure. Rika jested, suggesting that capable women might spoil men, playfully glancing at Nehru. In response, Nehru called Rika an anachronistic fool, causing Rika to tease her by tickling her until she burst into laughter, which was quite out of character for her. She lost her Batman aura in the egg world. Nehru was safeguarding a girl named Aoi. Nehru seemed bothered by Aoi's presence and warned her not to touch her. When Nehru spotted Aoi's Wonder Killer, a trio of octopus-like creatures, she fired a shot at the blue one to separate it from the others. While Nehru tried to target the remaining two, Aoi started lecturing her about beauty being temporary. As Aoi kept talking, the Wonder Killers started bouncing off the bridge beams at high speed, making Nehru retreat. Although Nehru managed to land some hits with her weapon, the Wonder Killers quickly recovered and resumed attacking. Aoi questioned why Nehru didn't just die now so she could die at her most beautiful, but Nehru paid her no mind. Ai, Nehru, Rika, and Momo strolled together to a nearby arcade, which was currently inactive. It was located near the place where they usually bought their eggs. Inside, they indulged in snacks, ignoring the rule against bringing outside food. Instead of reprimanding them, Aka, overseeing things, suggested they turn on the arcade for some group therapy. He eventually agreed, permitting them to play a single game of bowling. While playing, Ai reflected on her increased strength, attributing it to their adventures with the Wonder Eggs. Momo talked about Haruka, the buddy she was attempting to help. Momo was willing to accept Haruka as a girl, which made them close. One day, in the school medical center, Haruka abruptly undressed in front of Momo, removing her most holy garments. Her cultured antics startled and perplexed Momo, as she had never witnessed such a glorifying holy sight in her life, who ultimately pushed her away. As soon as the girls finish their game, Aka orders them to buy eggs and head out, but Ura Aka steps in and says it won't hurt for them to play. The girls insisted they stay a little while longer when they finish playing, and head to get eggs. Rika made the suggestion that they cease purchasing eggs while they were sleeping, explaining that they shouldn't feel entirely accountable for the deaths because they weren't the actual cause of them. When Ai told Rika to stop, she argued that since Koito didn't even speak to her before passing away, Ai should bear the least amount of guilt of all. Ai disputed this, stating that she was interested in learning the real reason behind Koito's passing. The argument intensified when Rika suggested that Quito might not have wanted to come back. Nehru decided to leave, sharing a painful revelation about her own experience. She explained that her sister betrayed her, stabbing her in the back before running away and jumping off a bridge. Nehru still felt the ache of those scars, but she found that buying eggs helped ease the pain. She noticed that the pain had lessened since she started using the eggs. In the egg world, Nehru faced a tough battle against the Wonder Killer, unsure of which one to attack. After a moment of uncertainty, Nehru took action and aimed her weapon at Aoi's hair, slicing most of it off. Surprisingly, this defeated the Wonder Killer. When Aoi asked how Nehru knew to target her hair, Nehru simply replied that Aoi had annoyed her. Nehru then realized that Aoi must have regretted her decision to end her life, as no one would be able to call her pretty with her hair cut off. Aoi shed a tear before disappearing. The next day, all the girls returned to buy eggs, making Aka and Ura Aka very happy. In AI's egg world, she and a girl named Yai Yoshida were chased by a bunch of Sino evils through the hallways. These Sino evils started taking off their masks, making them even more dangerous. Aka intervened, revealing that they were actually called haters. These haters weren't your regular Sino evils. They were born from envy and spite towards the girls. They didn't have the courage to show their true faces, but they were really furious creatures. Aka warned that they were tough in groups, almost as strong as a boss. One of these haters managed to hurt Yai's arm before they escaped into a storage room. Aka asked them to hide because the haters were chasing them for being the heroes in the limelight, leaving Ai puzzled about why they were considered heroes. While they rested, Ai helped Ya by bandaging her wound, and they introduced themselves. Ai instructed Ya to stay hidden until the bell rang. Aka advised Ai to stay put and not fight because protecting the egg person was her main task. He reassured them that he had a plan. As the haters broke through the door, Nehru, Rika, Momo, and Ai, whoever they were, all said that their greatest objective was Wonder Egg priority in unison. Reluctantly, Ai woke up the next morning to her mother's call for breakfast. She felt tired from the rough day before and tried to explain this to her mom. Despite her exhaustion, her mom insisted she get up and help with chores. Ai agreed, but she was so tired that she almost fell back asleep. When her mom returned and called her angrily, Ai responded with frustration as well. During breakfast, Ai multitasked, texting Nehru, Rika, and Momo while eating with her mother. To her surprise, her mom announced that she had made Ai's favorite omelet rice for lunch and planned to cook sukiyaki for dinner. Ai was caught off guard by this unexpected treat. Ai questioned her mother about the sudden decision, considering that omelet rice and sukiyaki are usually reserved for special occasions. Tae explained that she simply loved making those dishes for Ai, but Ai found it odd. Tae then brought up Shuichiro Sawaki's concern about Ai's future and suggested having a serious conversation with him. Ai responded angrily, stating that she would consider it. Ai received a text from her friend, asking if she was free that evening and when she planned to go to Aka's. She responded that she wasn't available that day, but could make it the following day. Leaning on her balcony railing, Ai gazed downward and let out a heavy sigh, lost in her thoughts. The next day, Nehru, Rika, and Momo gathered to meet up with Ai, chatting about their strange school experiences as they waited. When they spotted Ai, they immediately noticed something was wrong. Despite her initial happy skipping, Ai suddenly kicked a traffic cone in frustration. Concerned, they came out, watching from above her, their expressions filled with worry, likening the situation to a nightmare that ended terribly. They were eager to find out what had happened. The three girls watched as Ai knocked over a sign with the traffic cone, then gradually calmed down. Together, they headed to see Aka and Ura Aka, who congratulated them for surviving the encounter with the haters. Rika inquired about the haters and why they were seen as heroes, noting that they weren't doing it for enjoyment. Aka explained that the haters can't be reasoned with, and that anyone who stands out, for any reason, would face consequences in any world. Nehru asked about the solution Aka mentioned, and they were given a set of 4 pomanders, one for each of them, which acted like power-ups. Rika remarked that they should have mentioned it earlier if they had something so useful. Akka explained that they didn't want to risk the girls losing them, as they were extremely valuable. Akka explained that they needed to hatch the pomanders in the real world first. This wasn't difficult, as pomanders responded to body heat. All they had to do was hold them in both hands and gently rub them. It was important to do this alone, as the pomanders imprinted on the first person they saw. They also provided some chants to use in controlling them, which were apparently Latin words. After receiving their pomanders, the 4 girls left and hung out nearby. They sat on a bench, and Rika suggested swapping pomanders with Niru, but she declined, making Rika mad, like a 4-year-old wuss. Niru noticed Ai's lack of energy once again and asked her what was wrong. Ai responded, saying it was a long story. Later on, they arrived home and summoned the pomander helpers using the chant codes provided by Akka and Ura Akka. Cute little animal creatures appeared in their hands, and they wondered how they'd use them. That night, Ai found herself in the Egg World hallway with an egg girl. They were about to be attacked by haters when Ai summoned her pomander creature. It grew to a huge size and started eating the haters, much to Ai's surprise. Akka explains to her that haters are like their favorite food, akin to bread and butter. Ai trusts the pomander creature with the haters and escapes with the new victim. They enter the elevator to go up, and Ai asks the girl why she committed suicide. The girl gives her a cryptic answer, mentioning unexpected and scary things that only she sees. Ai is puzzled, wondering what she means. The girl reveals that her family and friends distanced themselves from her because of this, and they even sent her to a mental health hospital, believing she was crazy. The girl cries while narrating her story to Ai. Ai comforts her, telling her to calm down because a boss was on the way, and she would get ready to fight it. However, the girl reveals that the boss is already there, and Ai gets hurled through the walls. In another scene, Ai returns home to find her teacher, Mr. Sawaki, there. She's shocked and dismayed to see him still around. Her mom calls them in for dinner, but Ai still can't accept that her Mr. Sawaki is living with them now. They sat down for dinner together, but suddenly, Ai got up to leave. Her mom called her back, but she ignored the calls. Her mom then got up, saying she wanted to discuss something important. Ai's mom broke the news that she was going to start dating her teacher, Mr. Sawaki, which left Ai feeling upset. Momo, however, seemed thrilled about the news. They hung out at their usual spot discussing it, but Momo sensed Ai's discomfort and backed off. The conversation ended with Momo storming off angrily, misunderstanding Ai's feelings about her uncle being around. In the egg world, Ai woke up to find the egg girl about to be attacked by the boss monster. She rushed to help, but she couldn't see the attacker clearly and got hit. The egg girl threw her prayer beads at Ai, who touched them and saw visions revealing the boss monster, an elephant cheerleader person thingy creature whatever with a huge trumpet stick weapon thingy. This show has the weirdest monsters. Despite the surprise, Ai fought back and defeated the boss. She comforted the egg girl, who was relieved that someone finally believed her, before vanishing. Later that evening, Ai took a bath when her mom entered the bathroom, saying she was back. Before Ai could react, her mom started arranging her clothes. Ai hurriedly jumped out of the bath, still wet, and quickly got dressed and put on her shoes. Despite her mom's protests, she ran out of the house. She dashed through the rain until she found Mr. Sawaki. She held on to him for a moment before smiling and breaking the news that she would be going to school. One morning, Rika sat in her room, checking her phone for birthday messages. She applied lip gloss, but didn't like how it looked, so she wiped it off. Meanwhile, Ai was preparing for school. She snapped a picture of herself in her uniform and sent it to her friends' group chat, asking for their opinion. They all said she looked cute. They chatted as they got ready for their day, but Nehru seemed in no hurry to get up. They kept talking until Rika's final message, pointing out that Ai's shirt was too short. Rika walked over to the table where her mom was slumped over, surrounded by empty cigarette packets and bottles of alcohol. She angrily grabbed a glass and slammed it on the table, waking her mom up. Despite her mom's attempt to give her some money for her birthday, Rika refused it and demanded answers about her father. Her mom, under the influence of alcohol and smoke, casually told her that her father had abandoned them. Rika argued back, stating that he had only abandoned her mom, not her. Her mom tried to explain, but Rika interrupted rudely, telling her that she smelled like alcohol. Ai, Nehru, and Momo were sitting at a table, chatting and eating, when Rika noticed them and joined them. They all wished her a happy birthday and suggested celebrating it. Rika joked that it could be Ai's celebration for not being a complete shut-in anymore. She asked Ai why she suddenly decided to come to school. Ai explained that she had realized staying at home and being hard on herself wouldn't solve anything. Rika tried to make a cheeky joke about it, but Ai didn't catch on and argued that it wasn't what she meant. Nehru checked in with Ai, asking if she was completely okay with returning to school, considering her past experiences with bullying. Ai reassured her, saying it was fine. She explained that people started treating her cautiously because she had been absent for a while. She expressed gratitude to her friends, saying that even if she was alone at school, she had 3 close friends outside of it. They assured her that she could always come to them if something was wrong. As a joke, they suggested feeding any haters to Leon, Ai's pet magic lizard, since haters were Leon's favorite food. Everyone's going to need that hater-hating lizard. Rika sifted through a stack of old photographs, each one capturing moments from her mother's past, a past shrouded in mystery, especially when it came to her father. With a mix of frustration and determination, she laid them out on the table, hoping to piece together the puzzle of her missing parent. In each photograph, her mother smiled alongside various men, one of whom might be her father. Rika studied each image intently, searching for any clue that might lead her to the truth. But the more she looked, the more questions arose about who he was, where he was at the moment, and why her mother seemed so guarded about his identity. The memories flooded back as she recalled a promise made years ago. As she entered middle school, her mother assured her that she would finally learn the truth about her father. It was a pact made between them, a beacon of hope for Rika in the midst of her uncertainty. But when the moment of revelation arrived, her mother's words shattered that hope. Fueled by alcohol once again, her mother confessed that she didn't even know which man in the photographs was her father. The weight of disappointment settled heavily on Rika's shoulders as she struggled with the harsh reality of her situation. Despite her efforts to uncover the truth, she was left with more questions than answers. But deep down, she refused to give up the search for her identity and the missing piece of her past. Back in the present, as I empathized with Rika's struggles, Rika delved deeper into her complex relationship with her mother. She revealed the painful truth that her mother harbored resentment towards her, preventing any possibility of a relationship with her father. Rika's sharp words cut through the air, painting a picture of a mother who was far from nurturing or supportive. Momo intervened, offering a small gesture of comfort with a candy, and urging Rika to refrain from harshly criticizing her mother. The group fell into a somber silence, each lost in their own thoughts until Rika broke it with a startling confession. She admitted that while she didn't want to disparage her mother, the reality was far from ideal. Her mother's actions were characterized by deception and a lack of remorse, leaving Rika feeling unloved and unwanted. The tension escalated as Nehru attempted to offer advice, inadvertently triggering Rika's simmering anger. With frustration boiling over, Rika stormed off in a whirlwind of emotions, leaving her friends behind, and Momo followed, trying to calm her down. Rika sought solace in a dusty couch, seeking a moment of solitude amidst her turbulent emotions. Ai, ever the loyal friend, approached her with words of encouragement, humorously dubbing them the single mom girls, thinking she had the skills of Michelangelo naming things, and offering to commiserate by playfully roasting her own mother. Though Rika's spirits lifted slightly, the weight of her troubles still lingered as they exited the room together. In an attempt to distract themselves, they ventured to play games, but Rika's frustration from earlier events hindered her performance. Meanwhile, Momo, occupied elsewhere with Nehru, reached out to Rika through text, extending an apology for their earlier disagreement and inquiring about her well-being. She then approached Nehru, reassuring her that she shouldn't blame herself for the tension with Rika. Nehru, burdened by her own feelings of alienation, dropped a shocking revelation. She never had parents. As Rika and I gazed at the twinkling city lights, Rika couldn't shake her longing to meet her father, a yearning that weighed heavily on her heart. She confided in I, expressing her fervent desire to finally encounter him, even if it meant facing him right then and there. Grateful for Ai's unwavering support, Rika bid her friend farewell and departed into the night. Lost in thought, Rika found herself in a vivid flashback. She was locked in a fierce battle against a monster, accompanied by a woman who seemed to be missing a few screws and bolts. This woman, somehow connected to the creature and referring to it as master, seemed to be under its sway. Without warning, the monster launched a devastating attack, unleashing destruction upon the earth around them. Back in the present, Rika reached her mom's bar. Her mom greeted her warmly, surrounded by a bunch of drunk guys. She told Rika to enjoy her birthday cake, but Rika didn't pay attention. Instead, she went inside and attempted to cut herself. However, she stopped when she noticed her pet magic turtle looking at her a bit concerned. She remembered the flashback, where she had been fighting the monster. She managed to injure it, which made the woman with the monster furious. The woman yelled at Rika for hurting her master, and Rika wondered if the woman was okay. The monster and the woman tried to trick Rika into a deadly trap. As her friends shouted to snap her out of it, the monster was about to land a final blow. Just then, Rika's pet magic turtle came to the rescue. Rika regained her senses, and together with the turtle, she defeated the monster. In this episode, we see the past stories of all the girls. AI held an egg, unsure of what to do with it. Scenes flashed by, I buying eggs, running, getting mad, and breaking an egg. The egg cracked open, and See No Evils attacked her. Another scene showed I touching the hand of her friend's deceased statue, remarking that it felt a bit warm. The other girls were also shown standing in front of the statues of the girls they wanted to save, each lost in their thoughts and determination. We see I running to where the eggs were made, questioning their creation, but she was told it was a secret. Instead, the focus shifted to their regular customers, the four girls, with Aka and Ura Aka explaining that their stories must remain unknown to others. I zipped up her hoodie and headed out at night. She closed her door and suddenly found herself in a school hallway, surprised. She was told this wasn't reality, but a dream, called the Egg World. It was a place where only those who had broken an egg could connect, influenced by their mental landscape. Under certain conditions, they could even share this world with others. AI discovered that she had synchronized with 4 other girls. They had fallen asleep near each other at almost the same time, so they were in the egg world together. However, she was in another girl's dream because she was pulled by whoever's feelings were stronger. In the dream, I was tempted by toilet paper in the bathroom, urging her to break the egg she had. Eventually, she gave in and broke it. The egg enlarged, and a girl emerged from inside it. These were girls who had approached death of their own will and killed themselves. AI and her friends had been given the duty to protect these girls from See No Evils and wonder killers. Aka and Ura Aka recounted the story of Ioto, a 14-year-old middle schooler with mismatched eye colors. I had stopped going to school, not because she was bullied for her heterochromia, but because her friend Koito had committed suicide. Koito had always stood by I, comforting her amidst the bullying. However, Koito eventually started getting bullied too, which led to her jumping out of a window and landing headfirst on the concrete, killing herself. I later discovered that the bullying wasn't because Koito was her friend, but because Koito was receiving special treatment from Mr. Sawaki, their teacher. This revelation made I avoid Mr. Sawaki and see him as a bad person. Determined to bring Koito back, I started working for Aka and Ura Aka. In the egg world, Ai and her friends fought monsters and protected the girls who emerged from the eggs. While they were immortal in the egg world, they were not immune to injury. Nehru Aunuma's story unfolded as she gave Ai her contact card and planned their egg buying strategy. A genius running her own company at just 14, Nehru remained calm, reserved, and not very sociable, though Ai's friendly nature managed to break through her shell. Despite considering herself a hopeless socialite, Nehru appreciated Ai's outgoing attitude. However, she was often harsh on Rika, who eventually managed to make her laugh by tickling her. Nehru's motivation for buying eggs and fighting was to bring back her little sister. She shared her tragic story with the girls, explaining that her sister had stabbed her before running off and jumping off a bridge. Nehru had been told this when she woke up in the ICU. Despite the traumatic event, Nehru felt compelled to bring her sister back. She revealed that the scar from the stabbing felt like a curse. It no longer hurt physically, but the emotional pain resurfaced every time she saw it, preventing her from forgetting her sister. In the egg world, the changes they experienced affected their real-life bodies. Running and jumping in the egg world improved their athleticism, and wounds healed faster. Ai and Nehru noticed these changes firsthand. Ai told Nehru that she noticed she had gained some definition on her abs. Their wounds also healed faster, as if every bodily function of theirs was on steroids. Next, we delve into Rika Kawai's story. Despite her former life as a junior idol and her outwardly glamorous appearance, Rika's life wasn't as perfect as it seemed. She didn't know who her real father was, and she harbored a strong desire to meet him for the first time. Additionally, Rika had a strained relationship with her mother, and sometimes she even attempted cutting herself to commit suicide, but couldn't bring herself to do it because something drove her to fight. Rika's drive to fight and her motivation for participating in the Egg World battles was revealed. She fought to bring back a fan named Chiemi, who admired her deeply during her time as a junior idol. Initially, Rika thought Chiemi was just a wealthy supporter, but later discovered that Chiemi was actually a shoplifter who sold stolen goods to financially support Rika. When Rika found out about Chiemi's actions, she was furious and told Chiemi she wanted nothing to do with her. Rika even cruelly insulted Chiemi's appearance, calling her fat and ugly. However, when Chiemi took her own life, Rika was consumed with guilt. She realized that her harsh words had driven Chiemi to suicide, and this guilt was the driving force behind Rika's participation in the Egg World battles. She was determined to bring Chiemi back to life, hoping to right the wrongs of her past actions. The next story is about Momo Sawaki, a tall and cool girl who often got mistaken for a boy by others. Despite this, she was admired by many girls and always appeared confident and collected. Momo's friend she was trying to save was named Haruka. Initially, Haruka saw Momo as a boy, but she still saw her true self and even showed romantic interest in her. Momo was also the niece of Mr. Sawaki, who was Ai's teacher. Mr. Sawaki's connection to Koito's suicide, due to the special treatment she received from him, led to bullying. This relationship disturbed Ai's mom, leading to tension. However, Ai later made peace with Mr. Sawaki, deciding to return to school. This is the story of the four girls as told by Aka and Ura Aka, as this episode is only but a recap episode. Nehru surprised the other girls by inviting them to her house. They were so shocked by the unexpected invitation that they even wondered if Nehru was sick or if something serious had happened. They jokingly asked her if her company was in trouble or if she had committed a crime, but Nehru assured them it was nothing like that. Still, they found it hard to believe she just wanted them to hang out. Despite their initial surprise, Ai eagerly agreed to go, and they settled on Sunday for their visit. Ai even offered to bring snacks, which Nehru happily accepted. They left Nehru's place feeling excited about the upcoming gathering. When they arrived at Nehru's house, they found themselves in a theater-like setting. They learned that they would be watching Nehru's dreams, which had been analyzed from her brainwaves by Miss Tanabe Misaki, Nehru's secretary. Nehru explained that she was a super genius born via artificial insemination. Nehru didn't know who had her. Miss Tanabe told them that she was a member of the Japan Plati, a group of people with really high IQs. Her friends weren't surprised as they knew Nehru to be very smart. They arrived at floor B9, the medical floor. They asked Nehru if she was also a doctor, but Nehru told them that she wasn't, and she was also not in charge of that floor, and she was just filling in for the moment. They looked around the place for a while, spotting out interesting things. Rika was amazed by how many books were there. Momo was checking out the lab rat creature named Adam, and I asked where they could eat. They all sat down and ate together. Rika told Nehru that she was very lucky to run such a big company and be a boss of her own. She added that they seemed to live in different worlds. Before their visit to Nehru's house, Rika and Momo discussed what they could bring to enjoy themselves. They settled on makeup, of course. AI found a color she really liked and thought was cute. Rika and Momo showed off their nails, and they asked to paint Ai's and Nehru's nails as well. As the girls painted each other's nails, they talked about their dreams and aspirations for the future. AI suggested that Momo pursue a career in nail painting because she was really good at it. However, Momo expressed her interest in becoming a dietitian instead, mentioning that she'd been thinking about going to school for it. AI was impressed by Momo's ambition. Rika shared her dream of going abroad and working in English, finding it cool. She also joked about wanting to marry a hot foreign guy. It's good to see that she had her priorities straight. When AI asked where she would like to go, Rika reminded her that they were talking about career aspirations, not vacations. However, AI admitted that she would love to travel too, mentioning that one of her dreams is to live alone someday. She dreams of being alone and can't see anyone topping her lonely leaderboard. They finished painting Ai's nails, and she admired them, but she pointed out that one of them was a different color. Rika and Momo showed her that it matched theirs. The only one who didn't respond while talking about dreams was Nehru, who, when asked, said she'd probably stay like that forever and continue running the company. This came after an earlier remark by Rika about how different she was from the others because of her life as a big shot. It kind of got to her. Rika told her that she didn't exactly have to run the company for the rest of her life. She suggested becoming a writer since she liked books. Then came the big reveal. Nehru introduced the gang to a close friend of hers, Kotobuki. She too was a super genius, deeply enthralled in researching death, until one day she didn't come back from one of her experiments. She was left on life support. Nehru told them that Adam was her pet, and they noticed the color of her hair, to which Nehru told them that she was an albino. One day in the Silent Egg Zone, a hatchling named Kotobuki appeared in Nehru's sector. She was delighted to see Nehru's pet magic snake again and expressed her happiness at finally having the chance to formally say goodbye. Their reunion was interrupted by an attack from a chicken monster. The monster nearly got Nehru, but her pet Pinky intervened and saved her. Meanwhile, Kotobuki watched the fight unfold, finding amusement in the odd appearance of the monster. During their conversation, Kotobuki expressed her fascination with parallel worlds, a topic she was passionate about. Nehru mentioned that children born through artificial insemination were not considered children of God, sparking a philosophical discussion between them. Kotobuki appeared somewhat nihilistic, dismissing concerns about herself and expressing that Nehru had other friends who cared about her. Despite Nehru's determination to revive her, Kotobuki seemed resigned to her fate. She also displayed a reluctance to be touched by adults, possibly linked to the wonder killer phenomenon. Dr. Seki, in the real world, was a scholar with many degrees who was jealous of Kotobuki being a higher rank than him. He was a very proud scientist turned chicken, who wanted to experiment with Kotobuki's body because of her albino traits. Yeah. So the super genius cuties easily solved the chicken's big puzzle, and it shattered his ego into committing harakiri. Having told her story, Nehru was about to pull the plug on the pod. Naturally, Rika and Momo were against the idea, but Nehru harshly pushed them away. Ai was the only one who noticed Nehru's facade. She went back to her alone. First of all, Nehru properly explained to Ai why Kotobuki wanted her to pull the plug, because she didn't want the government to defile her body. Then came Ai's solution. She knew Nehru couldn't pull the plug that easily. Momo and Rika also discovered that Aka and Ura Aka were the people behind the Japan Plati and the whole scheme. During a Kokuri fortune-telling, Koito asked whether her crush liked her back. It's unclear who moved the coin, but I saw Koito smile when it landed on yes. I thought that maybe she moved it without knowing to make Koito happy, thus teaching Nehru about fantasy. As Rika and Momo said, the guilt would be too great. Thus, I and her would pull the plug together. That way, since both of them did it, they can't blame one or the other for killing her. What's done was done. The next day, Nehru picked up some books and packed them in her bag to leave. As she left, She saw a flashback of her and Kotobuki having fun reading. She decided to live her life happily from then on, saying that you only live once. Momo eagerly anticipated her first date with a boy, dreaming about what it might be like. When she woke up, she excitedly checked her schedule and prepared for the date. Meanwhile, Rika and I confronted the Akas, questioning their involvement with Japan Plati and their interaction with Misaki. Initially denying any involvement, the Akas eventually revealed that they were indeed the founders of Japan Plati. Neru interrupted and showed Ai and Rika a picture of the Akas when they were still human, explaining that they transferred their minds into mannequin bodies in the egg world. Before they could delve further into their questions, the girls received a text from Momo, explaining that she couldn't join them because she was asked out by a boy. Excited to hear about Momo's date, they left to meet her and gossip about it together. When they met up, Neru noticed Momo acting differently. Momo told them she got asked out by one of her fans for the first time. She dressed up more like a girl than usual, but when they met, the boy said sorry, thinking she was a boy when he asked her out. Rika found it funny, but Momo wanted them to laugh to make her feel better. Ai looked worried about it. Later on, I was in her room, remembering talking to Mr. Sawaki. She asked if he was really quitting his job as a counselor. He said yes, wanting to be an artist instead, and showed her a flyer for his art show. Ai thought about going. Meanwhile, Momo was in bed with her pomander, Panic. She thought about her awkward date and told Panic she wished someone would like her for who she was, not just how she looked. In the egg world, Momo safeguarded Kaoru Kurita. While her pomander, Panic, battled the haters, Momo and Kaoru engaged in conversation. Kaoru expressed admiration for Momo, stating that she was exactly his type. Momo compared Kaoru to Haruka, who had also professed love for her regardless of gender. However, Kaoru clarified that internally, he identified as a boy. Just as they noticed Panic had vanquished the haters, a gas surrounded them, and Kaoru was seized by his wonder killer. Momo set off in search of Kaoru, and found him trapped by his wonder killer atop its head. Kaoru explained that it was his kendo club advisor, whom he had sought help from after coming to terms with his gender identity. Instead of support, the advisor beat him down and went down with the forceful plot that wasn't cultured, and no one should do at home, or outside even. This caused him to become pregnant. Momo understood without him needing to continue, and she became enraged at Kendo. In a show of defiance, Momo ripped apart the shirt that the Wonder Killer had torn. Kendo Bukomon advanced on her as well, assuming that she was after Kaoru. In a swift move, Momo slices off part of the Wonder Killer's nose, causing Kendo Bukomon to recoil in agony. Momo attempts to rescue Kaoru, but the Wonder Killer swiftly recovers and hurls her through the train tracks. Meanwhile, in her egg world, Ai inquires about Momo's well-being. The Akas, speaking through nearby objects, question Ai's constant concern for her friends, suggesting she should focus on her own battle. They speculate that perhaps Ai avoids focusing on her fight. Back with Momo, Kendo Bukomon grabs her by the neck. Witnessing Momo's plight, Kaoru starts to break down, repeatedly affirming his identity as a boy. Hearing this, Momo gains a sack of strength, pushing Kendo Bukomon away while asserting her own identity as a girl. She extends her weapon, and the spear-like tip pierces through the Wonder Killer. As the glass holding Kaoru shatters, Momo asks him to leap. He does so, landing safely in her arms just before the Wonder Killer explodes. Later, Momo and Kaoru sit side by side at the train station. Kaoru's coat is draped over Momo's shoulders, a gesture of warmth and protection. Kaoru assures Momo that he will protect her in their next life, but Momo gently explains that not all girls seek protection. Kaoru pauses, then smiles and apologizes. He compliments Momo, calling her a lovely girl, and she reciprocates by calling him a brave boy. Kaoru then wonders if Momo would be okay with younger boys, and jokingly advises her not to get a boyfriend before they meet again. Surprised by his boldness, Momo blushes as Kaoru leans in to kiss her. Before Momo can respond, Kaoru disappears in a puff of smoke. Momo looks down at Panic, her pomander, blushing furiously and playfully shushing her. In the egg world, Rika Kawai was overjoyed to see Chiemi revived. But before they could reunite, Chiemi vanished. Although disappointed, Rika was relieved that the battle was over and looked forward to seeing Chiemi again in the real world. She started to celebrate with her pomander Manon, but their joy was short-lived. Suddenly, Manon pushed Rika away just in time to avoid a massive wrecking ball that crushed Manon, breaking its shell and leaving it motionless. Rika was shocked to see Dot, the culprit, laughing and floating above. As Dot landed, they assured Rika that they wouldn't harm her. However, Rika was deeply disturbed by Dot's playful demeanor and their callousness towards Manon's death. When Dot approached, Rika tried to defend herself by swinging her blades, but they proved ineffective, as Dot effortlessly destroyed them with their bare hands. Overwhelmed with fear, Rika collapsed to the ground. In the evening, Ioto decided to pay a visit to Aka and Ura Aka. She looked for them at their usual spot but found it empty. However, she saw a glow coming from a nearby house and decided to explore. Inside, I discovered a room filled with papers, files, and photos scattered all over. They seemed to be about the suicides of junior high school girls. Among them, she found a paper with the words, "Only warriors of Eros can resist Thanatos." Just then, Uraaka appeared and joined I at a table, ready to share a story from their past before they left their human bodies. Uraaka explained that he and Aka once worked at a research facility, where they felt somewhat content with their tasks but not entirely fulfilled. Their work was highly secretive, and they were always monitored closely to prevent any leaks. The pressure of their responsibilities began to weigh heavily on them, so they came up with a plan to create an artificial girl as a form of escapism. They poured their hearts into the project, exploring numerous designs until they settled on the perfect one. Their goal was to make her so lifelike that they could treat her like their own daughter, forgetting that she was artificial. They decided on a specific age for her, 14, as it represented a balance between childhood and adulthood. They incubated the girl in a pod resembling an egg, and when she was fully developed, they welcomed her into the world and asked for her name. Without hesitation, she chose to call herself Frill. Uraaka explains that they crafted Frill to possess qualities that a father would cherish in his daughter. She was cheerful, intelligent, and possessed a sharp sense of humor. However, they also understood the significance of imbuing her with flaws to make her more human. This included giving her the tendency to be selfish and occasionally resort to name-calling. As time passed, Frill matured beyond their expectations, and the trio formed a close-knit family unit within the confines of the research facility. Uraaka confesses that there were moments when they genuinely forgot that Frill was an artificial being, so lifelike was her presence. One evening, Uraaka and Aka attended a party where they met Azusa Hoshina. Azusa expressed her admiration for their work, and the trio quickly became friends. Despite both Uraaka and Aka being interested in her, Azusa ultimately chose Aka as her partner. They all moved into a house together situated in an artificial underground garden, including Frill, who immediately displayed a dislike towards Azusa, making her feelings clear to Uraaka. Reflecting on this, Uraaka acknowledges to I that he should have recognized Frill's true desires based on her attitude towards Azusa. Aka and Azusa eventually married, and during the wedding, Frill expressed her desire to have friends. When Uraaka offered to create companions for her, Frill declined, insisting on making them herself to ensure they wouldn't be more beautiful than her. Aka and Uraaka became increasingly busy with work, leaving little time for Frill, especially with Azusa's pregnancy adding to their responsibilities. Feeling neglected and jealous, Frill confronted Azusa while she was bathing, asking about the baby's gender. Azusa, unaware of Frill's intentions, mentioned that the baby appeared to be a girl and expressed hope that Frill would be a good older sister figure. Frill, overwhelmed by jealousy, impulsively threw a hairdryer into the bathtub, causing a fatal electrocution that claimed Azusa's life but spared her unborn child. In a mix of rage and grief, Aka locked Frill away in a small compartment in the basement of their garden shed. Both Akka and Ura-Akka struggled with depression after Azusa's death, finding solace only in the presence of Azusa's daughter, Himari. Himari's blend of intelligence and humor, inherited from both her parents, brought light to their lives amid the darkness of their loss. On Himari's 14th birthday, she innocently asked Ura-Akka about her mother, Azusa. When Ura-Akka mentioned Azusa's choice of Akka over him, Himari jokingly asked if he would wait for her to grow up. Ura-Akka, not grasping the seriousness of the teenager's inquiry, dismissed it. Tragically, that very night, Himari passed away in what appeared to be a suicide, although no explanation was left behind. Akka and Ura-Akka were once again plunged into grief by the loss of another family member. Suspicious of Frill's involvement, Ura-Akka went to confront her. Upon arrival, he discovered a network of wires leading from the room to the compartment where Frill was kept. Despite his probing questions, Frill remained evasive, even questioning why he was so invested in someone who wasn't his own daughter. Frustrated and enraged, Ura-Akka spirited Frill away and incinerated her physical form. This prompted Akka and Ura-Akka to delve deeper into the phenomenon of girls' suicides around the age of 14. They found numerous contributing factors, but sensed an underlying force driving them. After hearing this horrifying tale, Ai struggled with whether to continue her journey of breaking wonder eggs. Meanwhile, Rika and Momo, seen on monitors, were visibly shaken by their encounters with Hyphen and Dot, their traumatic experiences etched on their faces. Ai met her friends on a grassy hill. They shared the sad news that Manon was killed by a monster named Dot, and Panic was taken out by another monster called Hyphen. Rika admitted the monsters warned her not to return. When asked why she didn't speak up earlier, she got upset, insisting it wouldn't have changed anything. Momo, also angry, approached Ai, wishing she hadn't gotten involved in the first place. She stormed off, followed by Rika, vowing revenge on the monsters for Manon's fate. Left alone, Ai and Nehru stood on the hill. Nehru suggested they leave together. Later, Ai found herself pursued by haters. She stumbled, unable to fight them alone. Akka advised her to release Leon, but she hesitated, fearing for his safety after what happened to Panic and Manon. Despite being outnumbered, she tried to fend them off alone. Seeing her struggle, Akka asked her to break the egg and complete the mission. Finally, Ai broke the egg, and a new version of herself eggscaped. After demanding answers from Akka and Ura-Akka, it was revealed that the Ai from the egg was from another universe where Ai had taken her own life. Instead of being angry, our Ai felt empathy, understanding that bullying had led her parallel self to such a drastic act. When she mentioned Quito, the other Ai was clueless. Our Ai explained Quito was her friend, surprising the parallel Ai who didn't realize she could have friends. Suddenly, see-no evils started chasing them. Ai vowed to protect her parallel self and easily executed the monsters, leaving the other Ai amazed. They fled to the school rooftop with a pool. In a flashback, the parallel AI was seen drowning herself in the pool. Ai called out to her, bringing her back to reality. She asked if the other Ai was okay, and then described Quito as special, always being there for her despite the bullying. The parallel AI admitted she had never experienced having friends. Ai acknowledged she didn't know much about Quito either. From the pool emerged the Wonder Killer, who turned out to be none other than Shuichiro Sawaki, with paint tubes for legs like some four-legged RGB crab abomination. This was based on her perception of Mr. Sawaki as a bad person, and as the cause of Quito's suicide. He proved to be a formidable opponent, attacking her with corrosive paint that made it difficult for her to defeat him. Despite acknowledging that Mr. Sawaki was a good person deep down, the Wonder Killer twisted her thoughts, suggesting she was in love with him and being deceived by his appearance. Despite the Wonder Killer's accusations, I realized that her suspicions about Mr. Sawaki were unfounded. They were merely reflections of her long-held doubts and suspicions. With determination, she broke free from these mental restraints and defeated the Wonder Killer. With the mission accomplished, Quito was revived, and Ai's mission was successfully accomplished with her topping the global leaderboard. After her friend's revival, Ai faced a new threat as a strange creature attacked. Though she defended against the first assault, the second strike came at a high cost. Her parallel self intervened to shield her, losing an eye in the process. Shocked, I woke from her sleep, fearing she might have lost an eye herself, but found it intact. Eventually, she drifted back to sleep, grateful to her parallel self for saving her. As her parallel self vanished, smiling despite the blood flowing from her empty eye socket, I wept tears of relief in the real world, having finally fulfilled her mission, and the watchers of this show being left with a huge cliffhanger. Thanks for watching this intense journey of I and her friends as they navigate through the challenges of the egg world. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on the latest adventures. And remember, in the world of Wonder Egg Priority, the fight against the unseen forces never ends, and you never know what you expect. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.